Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about the poorest country in the world by 2026. Number 1. Afghanistan. Afghanistan GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast at $445. Afghanistan poverty stems from decades of conflict, including foreign invasions, civil wars, and insurgencies. Continuous instability has weakened infrastructure, undermined institutional development, and deterred foreign investment. The productivity of the agriculture sector, on which most Afghans rely, is low due to outdated farming practice, water scarcity, and land degradation. Widespread corruption and weak central government further harm development, with the economy remaining heavily dependent on international aid. Additionally, the Taliban's return to power in 2021 has led to the isolation of Afghanistan from global markets and financial systems, stifling the economy and exacerbating humanitarian crisis. Our panelists expect only move GDP growth next year, notwithstanding some support from infrastructure project linking Afghanistan to Central Asian neighbors. Number 2. Yemen. Yemen GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $493 per person. Yemen has been battered by civil conflict to over a decade, with the country divided into different factions. Chiefly, the Houthi rebels dominate northwest and the Arab Bank southern transition council in the south. The conflict has weakened infrastructure and caused mass population displacement. As a result, GDP per capita next year is projected to be only around a third of its pre-crisis level. Number 3. Central African Republic. Central African Republic per capita 2026 consensus forecast $609 per person. The GDP. The Central African Republic (CAR) is plagued by instability and conflict. Armed groups control large swaths of the country, undermining central government authority and creating a constant state of insecurity. Frequent crashes involving these groups have displaced millions, destroyed infrastructure, and prevent economic development. 4. The CAR is abundant in natural resources like diamonds, gold, and timber. These assets are often exported by corrupt officials or rebellious groups, with little benefit to the general population. The lack of basic services like education, healthcare, and reliable infrastructure further entrench poverty. Number 4. Madagascar. Madagascar GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $68 per person. Madagascar's low GDP per capita is tied to multiple factors. Firstly, chronic political crisis, including coups and contested elections, have weakened institutions and handicapped development efforts. Secondly, deforestation and unsustainable farming practices have degraded the country's biodiversity, reducing agricultural productivity and increasing vulnerability to natural disasters like cyclone. Thirdly, Madagascar's geographical isolation from major markets, combined with poor infrastructure, makes trade and investment difficult. Finally, a reliance on low productivity agriculture. Number 5. Malawi. Malawi GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $67 per person. Malawi's poverty is driven by its dependence on subsistence agriculture, with this activity involving the majority of the population. Extreme climate events including frequent droughts and floods regularly disrupt crop yields, exacerbating food insecurity. The most recent of these was the El Niño weather phenomenon, which caused exceedingly dry weather in 2024. Limited industrialization, cracking infrastructure, and an education system that struggle to equip the workforce with marketable skill further stifle economic growth. Additionally, Malawi's landlocked geography makes trade expensive and hinders access to global markets. Government inefficiencies, corruption, and high population go further compound these issues. Substantial financial support from foreign creditors provide the economy with a lifeline, but has also led to external. Number 6. South Sudan. South Sudan GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $683 per person. South Sudan's poverty is tied to its protracted civil war, which erupted soon after the country gained independence in 2011. The violence displaced millions, destroyed infrastructure, and disrupted agriculture, the backbone of the economy. In addition, mismanagement, corruption, and conflict over oil field have led to inconsistent production and income of the petroleum. South Sudan's main revenue source, ethnic divisions, and fragile political institutions, high inflation, food insecurity, and lack of education and healthcare further contribute to the country's underdevelopment. A civil war in neighboring Sudan caused further havoc, with South Sudanese oil exports being shut into to a pipeline being ruptured in Sudan in early 2024. Our consensus is for the country's GDP goal to roughly track the SSA average in the coming years, which will be insufficient to lift the country notably up the GDP per capita rankings. Number 7. Burundi. Burundi GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $690 per person. Burundi's poverty is a result of its history of ethnic conflict, most notably the 1993 to 2005 civil war, which shattered its economy and infrastructure. The country relies on subsistence agriculture, but the sector suffers from overpopulation, soil degradation, and limited access to modern farming techniques. Furthermore, political instability and corruption have deterred foreign investment and aid. Burundi also faces a poorly developed education health care system, with the latter failing to prevent the spread of epidemics such as 1994's mpox outbreak. Finally, frequent flooding has held back activity in the year to September 2024. Torrential winds affect. Number 8. Mozambique. Mozambique GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $690 USD per person. Mozambique's underdevelopment stems from a history of colonial exploitation followed by drawn-out civil war that ended in 1992. Although the country has abundant natural resources, particularly large gas reserves, the mismanagement combined with the corruption has limited their contribution to overall development. Infrastructure, particularly in rural areas, remains basic, hampering trade, periodic natural disasters like cyclones and floods, coupled with an ongoing Islamistic insurgency in the north, have further disrupted economic progress. Mozambique is expected to see above average growth among SSA economies in the coming years, thanks to the extractive sector. 4. A large share of these economic gains are unlikely to filter through to the ordinary populace. Number 9. Eritrea. Eritrea GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $704 USD per person. Eritrea's low GDP per capita level stems from the country's reliance on subsistence agriculture and its status as one of the world's most closed and repressive nations, which hampers investment and export. The country does sell some zinc and gold, key source of foreign exchange. A key threat to political stability is the potential sudden passing of the elderly leader of nearly 3 decades. Such an event would trigger a fierce secession battle and lead to a level of instability the country has not previously experienced. Tension with the neighboring Ethiopia spilling into conflict are further risk. Number 10. Somalia. Somalia GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $717 USD per person. Somalia's extreme poverty is primarily a result of decades of civil war, the collapse of central government authority, and ongoing insurgency by the Al-Shabaab militant group. The prolonged absence of functional government has left infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and roads, in a state of disrepair. And privacy and terrorism have scarred all potential investors. Clan-based power struggle and fragmented political control make it difficult to implement national development policies. Moreover, the country also suffered from frequent droughts, which devastated agriculture and led to chronic food insecurity. On the flip side, flooding can also occur, as observed in 2023 to 2024 due to the El Niño weather pattern. The late 2023 rainy season led to torrential downpour, affecting 2.5 million people. More positively, the country benefited from international aid, plus an African Union peacekeeping mission. Number 11. Niger. Niger GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $780 USD per person. Niger's poverty is partly driven by its harsh desert climate, which limits agricultural productivity and contributes to frequent droughts. Moreover, as a landlocked country, it faces challenges in accessing international markets. Exacerbating its reliance on low-income farming. The fertility rate, one of the highest in the world, puts immense pressure on the country's limited resources, particularly in terms of food and basic service. Additionally, Niger's weak government's high corruption level and ongoing security threats from extremist groups in the Sahel region further undermine development efforts. 1992. Successful craft exploit matters by reducing international aid and leading to sanctions by ECOWAS, arranging a regional trading bloc, though the latter have since been lifted. Number 12. DR Congo. DR Congo GDP per capita 2026 consensus forecast $819 USD per person. The Democratic Republic of DR Congo, DRC, is incredibly resource-rich and the country is main producer of cobalt, for instance, a key element in lithium-ion batteries. However, the DRC remains deeply impoverished. Civil wars and conflict, fueled by competition over minerals, have devastated infrastructure and led to millions of deaths and displaced citizens over the years. Fighting with the M23 militia. Allegedly backed by Rwanda continue. In the east of the country, widespread corruption, especially in the mining sector, prevent wood from reaching the population. The government is ineffectual and unable to provide basic services such as healthcare, education, or security. In the coming year, our panelists project the GDP growth should be repeated by regional startups, boosted by foreign investment in mining and transport infrastructure. Full economic hardship will be precious of many.